once one of the people that always come to interview him, he said one of them one day asked me, what is your favorite food? And then he said, pork. And the man said, but that's the worst meat. I think the guy asked him, what's your favorite meat? And then so the guy told him, that's the worst type of meat. And that 112 years, you know what he said to the man? He said, it cannot be this bad if today you can be talking to me.
Welcome to the Wise Traditions Podcast, sponsored by the Weston A. Price Foundation for wise traditions in food, farming, and the healing arts. We're your source for scientific knowledge and traditional wisdom to help you achieve optimal health.
Hey everybody, I'm Hilda Labrada Gore, and this is episode 160. My guest today is Gina Baker. Gina has a Master of Science and is an Ayurveda certified lifestyle counselor. Gina was born in Haiti, studied in the United States for a time, and for the past 20 years, she has lived in Costa Rica, where she and her husband have a small farm with 2 Jersey cows. Gina is also a writer and a researcher, with a particular interest in the centenarians of the Peninsula de Nicoya on the western coast of Costa Rica. These people were featured in the book The Blue Zones, but they were incorrectly described as mostly vegetarian, when in fact their diet contains a wide variety of animal products, including fried pork, pork brains, and lots of lard. Gina lives in Costa Rica, and she traveled to and from this region herself to find out more about the diet from the centenarians themselves. On today's podcast, Gina discusses her life in Costa Rica, her conversations with these centenarians, and how changing perspectives on fat and animal products have created a health epidemic in present-day Costa Rica. Before we get into the conversation, we want to recognize our sponsors. The Wise Traditions podcast is sponsored in part by Vintage Tradition Tallow Balm, the original whole food of skincare. Check out their new products, including a non-toxic paperboard tube for lips and on the go. Get yours now at vintagetradition.com. And Ancestral Supplements, putting back in what the modern world has left out. New Zealand-sourced liver, organ meats, and bone marrow in convenient gelatin capsules. Order yours today at ancestralsupplements.com. This is Holistic Hilda, and you're listening to Wise Traditions. Welcome to Wise Traditions, Gina.
Thank you. Good morning, Hilda.
So, Gina, you have lived in Costa Rica for some time. Tell us how you first got your interest sparked by these centenarians.
Okay. The thing is, Hilda, I arrived in Costa Rica 20 years ago, and from time to time, I would read article about a book that came out in the US about the Blue Zones, an area of Costa Rica called the Peninsula de Nicoya was mentioned. The book seemed to imply that these people were vegetarian. Now, I saw that so many times. I kept thinking, okay, this person did not come to Costa Rica, but nevertheless, I started making, sometimes I go to school and I ask schools if they would like me to talk about tradition, the importance of traditional food. I show the slides of Sally Fallon and, with the 11 principles. But I started asking these people what they thought about the fact that you hear in the internet that the people from the Peninsula de Nicoya, they are known centenarians. You see, in Costa Rica, often the newspaper will interview some centenarians from there. And then I said, well, I have read that these people were vegetarian. So, okay, people always laugh. Okay, once I was giving a talk, and oh my God, the people were laughing so hard. And one father said, all these people eat is chicharron. Chicharron is fried pork, right?
Fried pork.
Yes. And also, I had this friend, her parents are not from Costa Rica, and she was raised across from the peninsula, right? And she's about 70 years old, 74 years old. And then one day she was telling me, okay, she had never heard of the Weston Price principle, right? It's a lady I met in San Jose. She was giving Tai Chi course. And she told me, oh, Gina, I don't understand. I always have these health problems. And these people, you have to see them, 100 years old. They are still working on their field, cutting their corn. And then And then all they eat is lard and chicken skin. This summarizes the perception that other Costa Ricans have of the food of Nicoyans. In any case, this is traditional old-time Costa Rican food.
But why is it that the author of the Blue Zones said that the people of Nicoya, of this peninsula, were vegetarians? How could they get that so wrong?
People see what they want to see. I'll give you an example. I spoke with this centenarian, 112 years old. Okay, this is like 6 years ago. I don't know if you're aware, I went twice to the peninsula. I first went because I wanted to, of course, make sure what I was saying was correct. And I didn't want to say things, okay, people make jokes, but they were not exactly from the peninsula. So I wanted to go. So I went like 5, 6 years ago. And then maybe 2 years ago, somebody commented on a book in one of the journal of the foundation, and I wrote a letter to the editor that this is not what I have witnessed when I went there. So like 6 years ago, when I saw this 112-year-old centenarian, he told me that every 2 years, there is an institute that comes to interview him from San Jose. And I am the first person to ever ask him what fat did he cook his food with. No, I was beyond shocked, okay, Hilda. I was really shocked. And then these people, they write books about food of centenarians. And okay, another thing, this guy told me, once one of the people that always come to interview him, he said, one of them one day asked me, what is your favorite food? And then he said, pork. And the man said, but that's the worst meat. I think the guy asked him, what's your favorite meat? And then so the guy told him, that's the worst type of meat. And that 112 years, you know what he said to the man?
What?
He said, it cannot be this bad if today you can be talking to me.
Yes, I love that answer. That is awesome.
I know. I was like, yes.
Now, Gina, I just want to segue for a moment and ask you, where are you originally from? You don't sound like you're from Costa Rica originally.
No, I am not from Costa Rica. I am originally from Haiti, in the Caribbean. I left Haiti, I was 18 years old. I went to study in the US. And then after 12 years of living in the US, I married somebody from Germany. And that was very into agroecology. And we moved to Costa Rica, where we bought a farm and, bought 2 cows, Jersey cows. And yes, I lived there for a very long time.
Well, that's great. That gives us some background on you. Now let's go back to the centenarians. As you decided out of your own curiosity and interest to go and find them and discover for yourself what they were up to, which reminds me very much of someone else I know, Dr. Weston A. Price, who went to see for himself what the indigenous people around the world were eating. What did you find, Gina? What did you discover about the traditional foods that they were eating? And do give us some names. Do be specific if you can.
I can tell you about Don Marciano. He's one of the first centenarians I met when I went the first time, because that man was so alert, so on top of everything. He told me that as a child, he spent his day eating. Okay, first he had fresh milk from the cow, right out of the cow in the morning. Then they had chicken, so he went to look for their eggs. And his family, every month they would kill a pig. They had a field of corn, because, they make tortillas, of course. The Blue Zone stresses that they eat tortillas and pumpkin, right? And beans, right? Those are the 3 things that they eat according to the Blue Zone. But okay, so he said that his family would kill a pig every month, and then this pig would give them 5 gallons of fat, and that fat would last the month. At the end of the month, they had no more fat to eat food with, and they would have to kill another pig. Plus, they needed to eat also. He said the pig was way not enough food for them, so they went into the mountains to hunt all kinds of animals. I must tell you that, okay, I lived in Turrialba on the other side of the country, And in this farm, and I have a neighbor, he has gone to many Indian communities. He's partially Indian. I mean, all Costa Ricans are, but he was even more. And he told me, that any animal will be eaten. So this is incredible. When you read that these people are mainly vegetarian, he said any animal can be eaten.
It's more like if it moves, we're going to
Exactly.
kill it and
If
eat
it
it.
moves, it will be eaten. It can be eaten and it will be eaten. This man told me they were looking for food desperately the whole day, especially children were always hungry. So
Yeah.
they would go hunting or fishing or, and he told me there was a delicious, I forgot the name of the animal, but it's some sort of wild pork type. He
Uh-huh.
said that was so delicious that they always wanted to find, but it doesn't matter. Any meat would do. But of course, the more delicious were the type of meats that were more fatty. This is what they like, fatty animal, basically.
I see. And of course, this really coincides or corresponds with what Dr. Price found, that traditional people groups had animal products in their diet. As a matter of fact, Dr. Price didn't find any traditional people groups that did not have animal products in their diet.
Yes, and also it is strongly the case in Nicoya, but I have to say it's not only Nicoya. All the Costa Ricans, it's the same story. It is a new thing. It is a very new thing that people have demonized lard and fat. As I have told you, okay, my friend, she's 74. She's 74, but she's very connected to the Western world. This lady, the Tai Chi teacher.
Yeah.
And for her, animal fat is a big sin. I told you, she talks down about the Nicoyan people. She's saying that she looked disgusted when she was telling me that they only eat chicken skin and lard.
And yet, this is the very woman that you were speaking of a moment ago who is having health problems, right? So I know you're not a nutritionist or a dietitian necessarily, but have you seen a rise in health complications or health problems as people have avoided animal products or traditional diets?
Yes, it is so dramatic. The children and the grandchildren of the Nicoyans are extremely sick. It is unbelievable. Right now in Costa Rica, the Nicoya Peninsula, they have an extremely high rate of kidney failure. I have an older lady who told me, Gina, a long time ago, you would see old people. Nowadays, everybody is dying of cancer in the hospital. 37 years old. They don't seem to pass 37 years old. Okay, this is a big exaggeration.
Mm-hmm.
But for instance, Doña Panchita, I mentioned her in the article, this 108-year-old lady. Her family showed me a photo of hers where at 100 years old, she was with her machete hacking away in her field. But, at a certain moment, her family decided to take her in. And whenever the family takes you in, you are forced to eat the food that they make with the ingredients that they make. So, for instance, I was offered some processed juice with sugar that day.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure she would not eat that. I mean, sure, her knees were perfect, but her grandchildren, they have articulation pain. Don Marciano, I remember Don Marciano, the one I interviewed 6 years ago. He told me something. He said, Gina, in my time, everybody was so hard. You would touch them. It was like a brick. But now I touch my grandson and he's soft. So he said, I told my daughter, give him bone soup.
He just said it straight up. He knew what was good for the body and for strength.
I could not believe it. When he said that, I was like, what? Because we weren't not even talking about soup. I just was asking him what fat you cooked with and, more or less what you ate all day. And he told me, everybody loved me. Don Pedro is so funny. When I told him, some people doubt that you could have cooked with lard, because I have a friend, he's a Hindu, and he refuses to believe that these people could have gotten to this age with, their brain very sharp, eating lard. So I specifically for my friend, I asked Don Pedro, okay, Don Pedro, some people doubt that you have cooked with lard. So his eyes became all round. And then he said, what could we have cooked with? Uh, Because you have to understand, the peninsula de Nicoya still is very isolated, but before the touristic boom, it was extremely isolated. The people were doing barter. They didn't
Right.
even have money to buy things. They were just doing barter. They had their okay. There is a lot of land and few people, so they had their land where they have cows. They with the milk of the cow, the milk, the leche agria, the whey. I don't know. They did many things. The cheese. It was very important for them to have cows. That's how they could survive. It's not an easy environment. Okay.
Right.
Of course, those that live closer to the sea could fish, and they eat shrimp. When I was there the second time, I must thank the foundation because they had asked me to go ask more questions, and especially about pregnant mothers, so I could write an article. So the second time I went, so something phenomenal happened. I was in the small village and I asked where I could go buy some seafood from some fishermen. So they indicated to me a house and I went there and I bought some shrimp, right?
Uh-huh.
And for the first time in my life, I saw the crustacean butter. There was a thick orange cream in the back of every shrimp. It was unbelievable and it was so delicious. The shrimp tasted like lobster.
So, are you saying this is like an indigenous butter?
No, I don't know if you know, in the book of Weston Price, he talks about crustacean butter. I don't know if it's some time of the year. I don't know if it is at the time of the year that I went to that place or if it is the ocean there. I do believe it's the time of the year because there is a time in the year, for instance, the Costa Rican government will prohibit shrimp farming, right? Harvesting
Uh-huh.
at the certain time of the year. So there must be a time where they mate, there must be a time where they have more fat. In any case, it was unbelievable. It was like, how could I describe this cream, this orange cream? I don't know, maybe if you were to take fish raw and make a paste, but not even that because it was very creamy and too delicious.
It sounds to me like you would love to go back there and have some more.
I wish I would gladly go back. I really would gladly go back. I'm planning to organize a little retreat, not right there, but maybe a 4 hour from there. And I'm getting a lady to teach people or to cook the main dishes of these centenarians because all of them, I have to say, told me that they loved organ meat.
Organ meat. Absolutely. Wow.
Don Pedro told me they fought for the liver. The children fought for the liver. And so this is something that has really changed in Costa Rican culture nowadays.
Coming up, Gina describes some traditional dishes and the changes she has observed overtaking Costa Rica that are jeopardizing the relationship to traditional foods and fats.
You're listening to the Wise Traditions Podcast, sponsored by the Weston A. Price Foundation. We pause now to recognize our sponsors.
Gina was just mentioning the retreat she is planning mid-December. Would you like to experience Costa Rica and learn to cook some of the traditional foods she's mentioned for yourself? Just email her at gmuschler@gmail.com. That's G, M as in Marie, U, S as in Sam, CHLER @gmail.com for more information. And did you know that we offer the basics on the Wise Traditions diet right on our website? Go to the homepage of westonaprice.org and click on the green button that says Get the Basics of the Wise Traditions diet. You'll get the 7 easy lessons sent directly to your inbox for free. And Ancestral Supplements. Ancestral Supplements offer New Zealand-sourced bone marrow and nose-to-tail organ meats like liver, heart, kidney, pancreas, spleen, and more in simple, convenient gelatin capsules. Traditional peoples and early ancestral healers believed that eating the organs from a healthy animal would strengthen and support the health of the corresponding organ of the individual. In other words, A person with urinary ailments would be given a kidney from a healthy animal, and so on. I know I don't get enough organ meats in my diet, so I went ahead and got some supplements of my own. Visit ancestralsupplements.com today to see what it can do for you. Ancestral Supplements, putting back in what the modern world has left out. This is Holistic Hilda, and you're listening to Wise Traditions. Gina, let's go over some of the traditional foods that you've come across. Talk to us about chicharrón, which you mentioned earlier.
Chicharrón is a piece of pork that has a lot of fat that they fry with some herbs. I think they first marinate it with some herbs and then they fry. These people still eat everywhere. You will find chicharrón in Costa Rica. They still eat it everywhere. Doesn't matter. You go to a butcher store, you will find it.
So is that like pork rind or cracklings?
They also have cracklings, but crackling is just the fat, but the chicharrón has meat. It's really delicious. And cracklings are not as popular, or I don't know, at least here in the, let's say, westernized part, crackling is not as popular as the chicharrón. Chicharrón, I have to say, is extremely popular. They are not renouncing their chicharrón. However, they have renounced many other things.
What about sofrito? Can you tell us a little bit about sofrito?
Oh, okay, sofrito. All right. It is mainly brain from the pork, or it can also be brain from the cow. Usually brain from the pork and also the cheek of the pork. And they cook it with a little bit of water and spices. And when I went there, I was lucky enough, there is a lady who made it for me. And she cooks, and many people still cook like that, with wood, right? And so it gave it a smoky flavor. This is their traditional way of cooking, right? With wood. And that was really delicious. And at least in that small town I went to in Nicoya, that small village on close to the sea, every Saturday that lady, she went to town to sell it. But here in San Jose, no, I've never seen that.
Is that because this is one of the foods that maybe the modern city dwellers have renounced, or I guess that it's just one of the foods that people are walking away from?
This is what happened. You just mentioned sofrito, but I must mention another dish called sustancia, right? Uh-huh. Sustancia is always made with an organ, liver or heart. They could add also kidneys. And whenever people are sick or whenever they need some strength, they make sustancia. Now, the new generation, they don't even know what sustancia is. But any old person, even in San Jose, will know what sustancia is. But this is what happens. If you have not given a child organ meat, as an adult, he doesn't like it. The taste is not appealing to adults if they have not had it as children. But if you've had this is really systematic. If you've had liver as a child, as an adult, you'll love it. All the people that tell me they love liver, they had it as a child. Something really bad has happened in the peninsula, the Nicoya. Lard has been demonized and replaced by vegetable shortening. Uh-huh. All right? People eat lard less and less. Now, in other parts of Costa Rica, it's even worse. They don't eat lard almost at all, okay? Because it has been demonized, because from the US, you remember Ansel Keys made all this campaign that animal fat was the cause of cardiovascular disease, because in Italy, they only eat olive oil. Okay, please, who invented salami? If people will just say anything, prosciutto di Parma. I have my neighbor, she's 74 years old. When she was 20, she moved to Italy, lived all her life with an Italian, and she told me Italians ate meat 3 times a day when she lived there. And her mother-in-law, who was an Italian aristocrat, okay, demanded that she made a soup with heart for her children.
Wow.
Okay? And also that she cooked liver for them. That's the food of the Italians.
We get the feeling that you're passionate about this, Gina.
I am.
But you're right. people see what they want to see, and we just need to walk into places with open eyes, ready to learn from the wisdom of our ancestors and those who keep these traditional diets. Gina, what would you say to those who think that maybe the Nicoyan's longevity is just due to genetics and not to diet?
Well, no, that is really impossible because, as I have said, their children are extremely sick right now. They all suffer from gastritis, ulcerative gastritis. They all have articulation pain. I met one, his grandson had a brain tumor. A lot of them have cancer. A lot of them are dying of kidney failure.
So am I hearing you right? There's a contrast between those who have eaten their traditional foods all their lives and the younger generation that knows nothing of them.
Exactly. The only thing the new generation does is, as I have said, the chicharron. They don't do the lard. I mean, massive. When I say lard, okay, they also ate a variety of fat. They ate iguana fat, chicken fat, of course, big variety of fat. They also ate salted fish. Don Pedro told me he loves salted fish. It's impossible. I mean, there is nothing genetic about that, not at all. All the children are sick, virtually all.
So if it were genetic, all the kids would be living long, healthy lives, and they're not. They're very sick. So we need to look into what is it that's causing this change.
Instead of drinking sour milk, they are drinking soda. Instead of drinking whey, they used to drink whey or make soup with whey. They didn't waste anything from the cow. Now they drink sodas, artificially colored sodas, full of sugar. I have to say about the people from Nicoya, if in San Jose I tell somebody, the people in Nicoya, they don't have this problem that you're having, they eat lard, okay, they of course believe me, but they will not do it. But if I say that to somebody from the peninsula, the Nicoya, like I met this man, he told me his son had brain tumor. And when I told him, okay, how was the health of your parents and grandparents? He said, they all died at 100. They were all dying. I mean, the average was 107, okay? I said, okay, so they were all dying at 107 eating lard. And you are using vegetable shortening and you are sick. Do you see that the new population looks like them? He says, no. So what's your conclusion? He said, my conclusion? I'm going to start eating lard again. He said, I'm buying lard today.
That's wonderful. So Gina, as you know, a lot of people listen to the show because they're looking to improve their own health. So I want to ask you, if the listener could do one thing to do that, to improve their health, what would you recommend that they do?
I would rather say 4 things, if you don't mind.
No, I don't mind.
Okay, I would say more fat. Look for fat with despair, okay? Try to increase your fat as much as possible. Of course, go slow so the body can get used to it, and vary your source of fat. That's one thing. Second, you must eat organ meat. They are miraculous. They are a powerful bomb of regenerative elements, right? Organ meat. These people revered organ meat. Now, okay, definitely more soup. Look at what Don Marciano told me. He told his daughter, give him bone soup. Okay, so what more can I say? Don Marciano, he's the one who told me that today's food has the appearance of food, but not the substance of it. He said it looks like food. That's all. And of course, to drink sour milk. If I may recommend 4 things. Of course, they ate their carbohydrates. Of course, they ate roots, many type of roots, delicious roots. They ate also corn, they made their tortillas every day. Yes, they ate a good 40% of these carbohydrate food, but the rest was fat and some protein, always. Okay.
Well, that's a great word for us. Gina, we will put a link in the show notes to your upcoming retreat in December in Costa Rica and to the article that you wrote for the Spring Journal of 2017. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thank you so much, Hilda, for interviewing me.
My guest today was Gina Baker. Read the article she wrote on her visit with the Centenarians on our website. We'll put a link to that article and to her email address in our show notes, which you can find on the westonaprice.org website on the podcast page. There you'll also see the listener survey. Please take just a moment to fill it out, and thanks in advance. Don't forget you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts and on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a thing. You can also rate and review the show on iTunes. This means so much to us. We read each and every review. It lets people know the show is worth listening to. So thank you in advance for rating and reviewing the show for us. Next week, everybody, my guest is Thaddeus Owen. Thaddeus is known as the Primal Hacker. He is all about optimizing our health on every level. We go in depth as we discuss his own health journey and why he is convinced that light and even temperature plays a role in our wellness just as food does. Super intriguing concepts. He also makes suggestions for how to modify our lifestyle habits, taking these into account. You're going to love the conversation and get a lot out of it, I promise. So stay tuned. Finally, a quick thank you to the podcast production team. Assistants include Cassie Reef, Diva Risby, Melanie Ahern, and Ari O'Hara. Cheryl Heftelin helps with social media. Mary Hine, Olga de Villiers, and Joy de los Santos boost sponsorship and help with special projects. Our listening team includes Heather Carpentier and Victor Cosetto, and Amy Matias helps with transcriptions. Music is from Michelle Bloom's CD Big Backyard, specifically the track called Sunny Side Up. Isn't it charming? Find her music at allthingsbloom.com. So that's it. Let's keep in touch, everybody. I'm on Instagram at Holistic Hilda. Follow me for health tips, podcast stuff, and behind the scenes on the show. And me. Thanks, everybody, and see you soon. Oh, and if you ever want to launch a podcast, hit me up. Just go to holistichilda.com and sign up for a free 15-minute consult. I'd love to bounce ideas around with you about how to get your show out to the world. Thanks, everybody, and I'll see you soon.
Thanks for listening today. We have all kinds of resources to support you on your health journey. On the Weston A. Price Foundation website, you'll find podcasts, blogs, articles, and brochures related to just about any health topic you can imagine. You can also find a local chapter to help you discover sources of real, organic food in your area. And you can become a member to support the Foundation's mission of education, research, and activism. Visit westonaprice.org for all this and more. And remember that the Wise Traditions podcast is available on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Wise Traditions is a project of the Weston A. Price Foundation for wise traditions in food, farming, and the healing arts. The content on this podcast is provided for informational purposes only and is not intended to substitute for the advice provided by your doctor or healthcare professional. It is not intended to be, nor does it constitute healthcare or medical advice.